Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 320. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 6. So I'll read the verse here. Swadishyanam ekadeshe. Swadishyanam ekadeshe. Manasa pranadharanam. Manasa pranadharanam. Vaikuntha Leelabhidha Leelabhidhyanam Vaikuntha Leelabhidhyanam Samadhanam Tathatmanaha Samadhanam Tathatmana Swadhishayanam ekadeshe Manasa pranadharanam Vaikuntha Leelabhidhyanam Samadhanam Tathatmanam na Swadhishyanam within vital air circles. Ekadeshe in one spot. Manasa with the mind. Prana the vital air. Dharanam fixing. Vaikuntha Leela on the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhidhyanam concentration. Samadhanam samadhi. Tatha thus. Atmanaha of the mind. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called samadhi or samadhana of the mind. Once again, fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called samadhi or samadhana of the mind. Purport. There are 6 circles of vital air circulating within the body. The first circle is within the belly. The second circle is in the area of the heart. The third is in the area of the lungs. The fourth is on the palate. The fifth is between the eyebrows. And the highest, the 6th circle, is above the brain. One has to fix his mind and the circulation of the vital air, and thus think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It is never mentioned that one should concentrate on the impersonal or void. It is clearly stated, Vaikuntha Leela. Leela means pastimes. Unless the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, has transcendental activities, where is the scope for thinking of these pastimes? It is through the process of devotional service, chanting and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that one can achieve this concentration. As described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord appears and disappears according to his relationships with different devotees. The Vedic literatures contain many narrations of the Lord's pastimes, including the battle of Kurukshetra, and historical facts relating to the life and precepts of devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and Ambarish Maharaj. One need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Very interesting. One need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Then he will be in samadhi. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state. It is a state achieved when the mind is virtually absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called samadhi, or samadhana of the mind. So this is a very wonderful text, because sometimes people, they claim that first of all, that meditation, dhyana, is the way to the Lord. And secondly, they say that actually it's not really, you know, like the way we do it. You know, thinking of Krishna's pastimes, it's just meditation means emptying the mind. But here it's being said, Vaikuntha Leela Bhidhyanam. Right? Just even a non-Sanskritist can understand this. Abhidhyanam means concentration, and Vaikuntha Leela means on the pastimes of Vaikuntha Leela, you know, of Lord Vishnu, Vaikuntha, his pastimes, Vaikuntha Leela. So this is actually the object of concentration, and that leads to samadhi. Next line says samadhi. So just yesterday, I was speaking with someone. They were saying how um, this meditation is what they've done since the last 25 years, and it's helped them so much. It's made them so successful, and now they were just coming to ISKCON, and they were kind of getting interested in ISKCON, and so they were from the Chinmaya mission, and so many people like this. They do meditation, and for years and years, you see these Buddhist monks. They will sit on their knees and meditate so much that after some time, after some years, they will need knee replacement. They'll go for knee replacement surgery. There's one monk, he was the head of meditation, and he in terms of, you can imagine within their society also, there's people who are, good, better, best, most intense. So he would meditate for like 8-9 hours straight, and for years he did this. And then after that, he had to get both of his knees replaced. They got locked in place. So much effort is there, so much time is invested. Yet the unfortunate fact is that while it's good for the mind, it may have, it brings them closer to the spiritual life. But like the Bhagavatam says, Sang Siddhir Haritoshanam. And if that's not the case, then Shama Eva Hi Kevalam. It becomes simply useless labor. After 25 years of meditation, they gain an appreciation for meditation, but very little realization. Still, their body is affected by sitting for so much time. It's not good for the body, and their material desires are still there. These people are still interested in money, wealth, all these things, and still searching for something higher. So Prabhupada used to ask that meditation is there, yoga is there, but what is the goal of meditation? Right? What is the goal of yoga? That is something that we need to ask. What is the goal of meditation? Meditation is nice, but where are we trying to go to? What are we trying to attain? And here Prabhupada is clarifying that the goal of impersonal meditation is not, it is not to attain some impersonal realization, concentrate on the impersonal or the void. But the goal of meditation is to concentrate on the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So generally we hear more often that we have to fix our mind on the holy name, right? Chanting Krishna's holy names. And that is true. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said that there's 3 types of kirtan. There's kirtan of Krishna's guna, of his lila, and of his nama. And all 3 are processes of bhakti yoga. And there's 3 types of shravana also, on the guna, on the lila, and on the nama. Among all the paths of spiritual life, among all the processes of spiritual life, these shravanam and kirtanam consist of the highest path, most essential path, in this day and age, the most rapid path of reaching the Lord. But among that, guna, lila, and nama, concentrating one's mind on the nama, on the name of Krishna, is the highest among those 3. And that's why the chanting of the holy name is most emphasized. Because of the 3, the guna, lila, and nama, to fix the mind on the name of Krishna is even more, he writes. This is in, I think it's commentary on Bhagavatam, or yeah, that's where it's one of the verses. He writes is the most effective. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes this. Our scriptures also say this. Prabhupada also says this. At the same time, here it's being said that by fixing one's mind on the pastimes of Krishna, one attains the state of samadhi. Because at the same time, while the nama, the name, is the most important in this day and age, it is actually easier to fix the mind on Krishna's leelas, on the leelas of Krishna and his devotees. Because of our conditioned state, right, to fix the mind on the name of Krishna is easy, but it's not so easy for us, because especially if our mind is disturbed, right, we'll be chanting and we'll be walking around and we'll be chanting and the mind is going in 50 different places, right? But if we hear a pastime, like when we read or hear, the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, our whole mind gets absorbed in it. Like, at least my experience is I read it, and at least for the time being, I'm not thinking of anything else. Especially if one is suffering from some form of anxiety or distress at that time. It's very easier to hear a nice narration and zone out, right? Like you can zone out of the distractions around you. Whereas if you chant and your mind is disturbed, then those full 2 hours, your mind will be like a ping pong ball going back and forth, all these things. So here it's being said that Prabhupada here is saying that if we can concentrate our mind on one of these pastimes of Krishna, then our life is successful. And particularly he's mentioning Prahlad, Dhruva, and Ambarish. So Prahlad and Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes are described to be extremely powerful. It said that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his childhood, he heard these pastimes hundreds of times because they give such spiritual potency that if heard, they immediately inspire, Prabhupada says, they immediately inspire determination and inspiration, even in the heart of a neophyte. And they're so absorbing. And my understanding up until today was that, well, we have to, the whole Bhagavatam, right? We have to read it through all these things. But at the same time, it's true that when we read through the Bhagavatam, there's certain pastimes that really attract our heart more than others. Not just the Bhagavatam, but also the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, the pastimes of his devotees, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, of Krishna. And so Prabhupada here is saying one need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Can you imagine? One need only concentrate on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thoughts. And we actually find that this is the case, that when we are absorbed in a pastime, then that one is enough. Every day we want to hear it. When we actually have a taste for a pastime, we want to hear it every single day, and we'll keep hearing it, and we'll keep hearing it. And when we don't hear it, we'll miss it. So it's not even that we have to keep changing it. Sometimes changing it can take time and to figure out, okay, should I do this? But we have one pastime which we are absorbed in, and we keep hearing it for maybe even years or months, and you go deeper into it. What is the meaning of this pastime? What is the message of this pastime? What are the details of this pastime? What is the mood of this pastime? And that is called samadhi. Right? That is called samadhi. And that's why there's so many processes for, everything is, and they can all be correct. We see some devotees in our movement, they're very, very fixed on chanting the holy name. Left, right, front, center, they're always chanting the holy name. And we see other devotees, they chant the holy name. Everyone must do that chanting. But then their main service is just being absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna, right? And so such devotees are also, but they're doing it they've, Shravanam and Kirtanam, but more on the Leela than the Nama. The Nama is always there, 16 rounds, everyone is doing, some Kirtan, some Mangalarti, everyone is doing. But in terms of their daily activity, there's more Leela, Shravanam, Kirtanam than just the Nama. So that is also Samadhi. Prabhupada says, then he will be in Samadhi. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state. And so also the other thing that came across is so natural, right? It's so natural. It's not like samadhi is this, unnatural state of trying to meditate and somehow focus your mind. But when we are absorbed in a pastime of Krishna, we have a taste for hearing about Krishna. That is samadhi. That is samadhi. And if we do it a lot, we will, because samadhi means always thinking of that person, of Krishna. Machchitta matgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta shimam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Krishna says in the Gita. My devotees, machchitta matgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta shimam nityam. Kathayanta shimam nityam. Eternally, nityam, always, always. Nityam means eternal, it also means always. Kathayantasya. Always they're absorbed in describing and glorifying katha, me, right? Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. And they take pleasure. They have a taste in doing this. And honestly, at least especially in the beginning, I find the easiest way to get absorbed in that taste is to speak more than hear. Because when we hear, we don't have a taste like Parikshit Maharaj. But when we share with others, when we give classes, when we invite others and share Krishna's message of Gita or Bhagavatam with them, then it's very easy to get absorbed. Because when we share, like right now I'm giving this class, I have to be 100% attentive. The rest of you on the class may, maybe cooking or, washing pots or, not even, may just have joined out of obligation that someone should be there for the class. But the person who's speaking has to be fully absorbed. Of course, most of you are absorbed more than me. But when you speak, you have to be absorbed. And when you speak, you feel greater mercy. There's also a verse somewhere which says that by speaking, you get something like 100 times the benefit because you're sharing with others. Of course, hearing is most important. It starts with Shravanam, but it should not end there. We're hearing and then we are speaking, and that speaking helps us go deeper. So Prabhupada says so the devotees of the Lord are always busy in conversations, Krishna saying, about me. Dushyanti cha ramanti cha. They're always speaking, conversing. Someone's asking a question, someone is speaking. They're studying Krishna's pastimes, his leelas, his activities. And the result of that is that the Lord says that the Lord manifests himself in those conversations. Krishna appears, the acharyas say, when the devotees converse about him. So if we are alone and we are speaking or hearing about Krishna, he may or may not appear. But when the devotees gather together and they converse about me, and this could be just your family members, when they converse, then then Krishna really appears. And Prabhupada says that when we hold satsang in our home, we invite devotees who chant and dance in our home. Then he says, even the demigods and Narad Muni and the sages, they come to hear and listen. It's not an ordinary occurrence to have the kirtan of the Lord, to have the katha of the Lord. And so when devotees are there, are invited, and together they're conversing and glorifying the Lord. Just like they say, wherever Lord Ram's pastimes and Ram's name is being glorified, Hanumanji comes, right? He says, wherever Lord Ram is being glorified, truly and sincerely, I am there. In the same way, whenever there's Krishna Katha, Ram Katha, any Katha about the Lord, all the demigods and the sages, they appear. And Prabhupada noted this on many occasions during his pastimes. We don't have the eyes to see, but he had the eyes to see. That when he was engaged in some kirtan or some program to the general public in New York City with the hippies and all these things, and they would do some auditorium program, then Prabhupada says, did you see? Narad Muni was there. The sages were there. The demigods were there. So when genuine katha goes, and we have no qualification to do this katha, but if we are reading Prabhupada's words, if we are repeating his words, we are reading from his books, then because that is Srila Prabhupada speaking, we are simply facilitating that, then they may come to hear Srila Prabhupada. Right? So this is the kind of the essence of this verse, and this is true samadhi. Right? So we can try to get absorbed in some pastimes of the Krishna and his devotees, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that will be very wonderful. So if there's any comments, questions, corrections, we have a few minutes left. Yes, Anish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class done with Pranam. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Prabhu, I recently read in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.2832 something about Nirjan Bhajan. So I just wanted to see if there's any relation between a spiritual master taking on to Nirjan Bhajan and later going on to Samadhi. Or does one always have to attain Nirjan Bhajan?
So Prabhupada says actually that preaching Krishna consciousness and engaging in intense devotional service is Nirjan Bhajan. Right? That is actually Nirjan Bhajan. And that's why Srila Prabhupada says, he said when his disciples said, Prabhupada, you are getting so ill now, you're getting old, please stop traveling, please take rest in Vrindavan, we will come and meet you there. It was a very nice proposition that devotees made to Srila Prabhupada during the final years of his pastimes. Prabhupada said, do not take away my privilege to serve Krishna. He said that I want to die as a soldier on the battlefield. He says, I don't want to die in Vrindavan, although that's where he left his body, because that's the arrangement of the Lord. But he said, I want to die as a soldier on the battlefield, fighting for Krishna. If Nirjan Bhajan was not that, then he would be like, oh yeah, no, I'm getting old. I could leave at any point. Let me go to Vrindavan and start Nirjan Bhajan. So Prabhupada was very sick. This is the last year in his pastimes here. And he was in Vrindavan. And one day he said, I'm going to London. And they said, Prabhupada, how can you go to London? You're so ill, you can hardly walk here in Vrindavan, and now you want to go to across the sea to London. And Prabhupada, and then they said, Prabhupada, if you go to London, you may leave your body in London. The devotees told Prabhupada very openly, because the doctors were saying that Prabhupada is now leaving. You may leave your body in London, and you came here to Vrindavan. You're in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada said, it would be very nice if I leave my body in London. And that's when he said that I want to die as a soldier on the battlefield. So Nirjan Bhajan means complete absorption in bhajan. There's nothing else that you're doing. We preach sometimes, and then other times we are, watching, something on their iPhone. Or we are, we're like in and out of our devotional space, of our service, of our preaching. Nirjan Bhajan means that there's nothing else other than Krishna. So all of us should come to this stage of Nirjan Bhajan, where it's complete absorption, only Krishna, nothing else, right? But it doesn't come in one day. Prabhupada says we cannot get the spiritual world by storm, meaning we cannot get the spiritual world overnight. So we develop gradually, just like people who write, right? They write books. One of my professors, he wrote like 4 big books on electrical engineering, something very technical subject matter, like something that you read it for half an hour gives you a headache. And he was writing books on this. So we asked him, how do you write so much? And he said, I just sit for 7, 8 hours at a stretch, and I just sit and write on my kitchen counter. And we asked him, well, how do you do that? Because, after 1 hour, we need to get up and do something else. How do you sit? He said, it's a practice. He said, first you can do it 2 or 3 hours, then you do that, for a week. Then you get used to it. You start doing 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. This is like 20 years ago when I talked to this professor, very big professor, very famous man. And so 6 to 8 hours a day, he would sit and he would write, right? But he developed that practice. He intensified it more and more. And so it's the same idea that Krishna consciousness, we get into the practice. And in the beginning, going to the Sunday feast once a week is like a big deal. It's like, oh, I have to take time out of my schedule. You ask people, say, how can I find time to attend satsang? I have no time. And we ask them, do 4 rounds. And they're like, oh, I just have time for 2. How do you find the time? And then after some time, they're able to do, then devotees able to do 2, 3 programs a week. They're able to chant 16 rounds. Why? Because the practice increases. So Nirjan Bhajan comes when the practice is strong enough where a person does not feel any need for anything else, not artificially, but they're just so absorbed in their service to Krishna, and there's so much taste in that service that they don't think about anything else. Right? So yeah, we should end here. Yes, very soon. So yeah, okay, I'm the host anyways. So does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So Nirjan Bhajan means preaching, but it also means in certain context where a devotee sometimes will just, turn away from the world, knows they're about to die, and they just engage in full-time bhajan. They're just chanting and reading. But both are Nirjan Bhajan. Preaching is also Nirjan Bhajan, and chanting is also Nirjan Bhajan. Yes. Yes. Okay. Anything else final? Thank you, everyone. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki